haircut too, which
Yeah, that was today.
Oh, Robin, how you feeling?
About 95% finally. Yeah, it was rough. And antibiotics.
Oof. Yeah. Well, we're live, gentlemen. So but yeah, I guess
mics are hot.
I know. Watch what you say. Okay. Sometimes we've been caught saying a couple of I don't know.
I had to get my copy over here.
Oh, I love it. And usually it's Gavin who's the one that is saying.
Yeah, if anybody's going to be
it's not me. It's definitely not me. No. So here's what you don't know as we were talking, because we'll wait as everybody's coming in to get settled, is that I own another company called Sector Intelligence. Gav's in it. We got a bunch of people. We are global, and it's concentrating on elicitation and creating lead dossiers on potential clients or leads for salespeople. It's super cool, very high tech, very cutting edge, but we wanted to host a human intelligence to business intelligence conference because have been in this, arena for decades. And we thought, hey, on the tail end of the global GSX conference, is that global security conference in Dallas, Texas in September. That's where we're hosting it. So it's the first ever. It's called SICON, which just stands for Sector Intelligence Conference. And we're calling it the 5 Eyes. Lots of cool stuff. Guest speakers, keynote speakers, celebrity keynote speakers. We have the spy game. We're going to have a war room. We're going to have something that Robin just brought up, and everybody will be here. And Jim, you're going to get an invitation. I'll tell you more about it. But that's it.
Great.
So yeah. So it would be awesome to have you as a breakout speaker. Just saying. So we'll get into it. Mm-hmm. Cool. There's going to be a lot of fun.
It is, and I love watching the schedule fill up for the year too. It's fun.
My interrogator says, "Where's this going to happen?"
Dallas, Texas.
I can do Dallas.
Yeah. Okay. I thought so.
Are you going to drive it, Jim?
It's possible. It's not. Yeah.
All right.
Oh, we're all going to go on your Corvette when we get there, then, Jim.
Yeah.
Oh, Jim, you can offer Corvette rides.
Sure.
I love it.
Famous photo with Jim's famous Corvette. The car is a star.
The car is a star. Hey, everyone. Welcome. Tonight we have, obviously, Jim Pyle back with us. I'm super excited. And we're going to continue our talk on interview interrogation and all that fun stuff. But I think we're also going to talk a lot about a very famous interrogator, German Luftwaffe, not Gestapo, interrogator called Hanns Scharff. And so maybe we'll give a little historic background on him and why all of us here really admire his approach and how and when we have used his techniques, because there's one technique that he does that I love so much. I think it's an approach technique when I went through interrogator school, actually. It's called change of scene. And there's so much we could talk about with change of scene. So, and it can really help anybody in any industry. So it's not just, if you're criminal investigations or you're interrogating terrorists. Oh my God, change of scene can help if you're a supervisor, a manager, a parent, a leader. It's just amazing and brilliant. So stay tuned because we will be talking about that. Before we kick off officially, though, I know you all know who we are, but we've had so many new tribe members join in the last couple of weeks. Big shout out to you all. Thank you. Welcome to the family. We're going to go around and just introduce ourselves so you know who's talking to you and who's sharing this knowledge. So why don't we start with, I don't know, somebody start.
You.
Okay, I'll start and then I'll ping it over to someone. I'm Lena Sisco. I am the founder and CEO of the Congruency Group and Sector Intelligence Group. I'm a former Navy intel officer, but Marine Corps certified interrogator, if you could figure that one out. Interrogated down in Guantanamo Bay, Cuba shortly after 9/11. I was also subpoenaed by a prosecution team to go back for the very first war crimes tribunal of our time, which is very interesting. First time I've ever been cross-examined. But I've worked for numerous three-letter agencies. I either worked for them or with them. I've worked for numerous contracting organizations. And finally, I said, you know what? I'm tired of job hopping. I'm going to create my own company and just stay in one place. And that's what I did. So I'm an author of a couple books. I do have my newest book coming out November 15th. And you guys, you know this, I've been spamming you incessantly, but Honest Answers comes out November 15th. Some of you have already pre-ordered it. Thank you so much. There's stuff in there that I know you can use in your everyday lives. Yeah, and I think that's about it. So I'm going to kick it over to Robin. Robin, introduce yourself.
Hello. Robin, former Marine. Happy Marine Corps birthday, by the way.
Yes.
A veteran spy recruiter with the FBI. I ran our counterintelligence behavioral analysis program, and I was also a lead trainer for recruitment ops and all that CI counterintelligence stuff in the FBI. And I have my own company called peopleformula.com, and where I'm primarily a coach and speaker, as well as the Forged by Trust podcast host, which everyone's been on. And I can't wait to release Jim's episode. We had probably one of my most fun conversations the other day, recording his episode. So I'm excited about that one coming out. So, and also best-selling author of 3 books as well. There you go.
All right, Robin, you give the ball to somebody else.
Gav.
That's it. Save the best till last.
That's
Right. So yeah, my name's Gavin Stone. I'm a former civil servant for the British Ministry of Defence. I've spent around about 20 years in the security and intelligence industry. Worked in a spectrum of areas from close protection, covert surveillance, human intelligence gathering, penetration testing, you name it, I've had a play with it. I'm the author of this best-selling book, How to Tell If Somebody Is Lying. And I'm also about to release, I can do it now because the cover reveal has happened, this book very soon, my new fiction novel, The Unforgiven Spy. Which will be available a few days after Lena's. A day or two after Lena's. Still waiting for a confirmed date. So, but yeah.
Flooding the market.
Yeah, it'll be a double celebration.
Right.
That's right. And that's a little bit about my career summarized. Over to you, Jim.
Okay. You guys are a hard act to follow. I can tell you that. And my name is James Pyle. And that's why I didn't join the Marine Corps. I joined the Army because I didn't want to be Private Pyle in the Marine Corps. But former salesman, sales trainer, sales manager, former Army interrogator, former Army strategic debriefer, interrogation trainer, debriefer trainer, author, inventor, DJ personality at one time, and working always to train and to help other people communicate with my newest stand-up called Conversation Codex, and it'll be available soon. We hope. It's stumbling in the stand-up, but it's going to stand up soon.
Awesome. I love it. Okay. So I'm trying to go without eyeglasses tonight, but I can't read the comments. So I'm going to have to put them on because I will be monitoring comments as well. And Gav, if you want to keep an eye on them too. Although I have a new pair of eyeglasses coming in and they look just like your, Gav. They have no, no frame or something. They're supposed to be just clear and anti-glare. And
there is a frame to these ones, but it's a very, very thin frame. So.
Yeah. I don't even think I have. Yeah. I don't even think I have a frame on my new ones. So I can't wait to get them in. But anyway, I digress. Okay. So gentlemen, how you want to kick off this conversation?
I want to go with what Jim said. Sorry.
No. Yeah. What? Let's do it.
What did you invent, Jim? You said you're an inventor.
I have a device that I invented for Phoenix Consulting Group. We were having to contract linguists to be interpreters for our role play for all of our interrogators and our debriefers, and it became to be a very expensive proposition with having to hire 2 linguists per training event, who spoke a different language other than our students. And so I had a radio background, and I had this idea inspired by Charlie Brown to create a non-language that nobody spoke, but that we could use then from a machine with headphones and a microphone. And I could talk in real time, but you wouldn't understand me. You could talk in real time. I wouldn't understand you, but we're still speaking English. So the interpreter can interpret for us no matter what, no matter what language we would all be speaking. And it's called the Electronic Language Simulator. It didn't create a language. It had no language capability, but it created a language barrier. So it's absolutely the opposite of what you would expect in a communication situation. But then it helped our folks to learn to use an interpreter, to the pauses and the keeping.
Oh, I get
That's amazing.
And so it was all off the shelf, but I configured everything so that it was always contrary to what it was supposed to do, all the components, and it was awarded a patent, an uncontested patent, which I think is amazing.
right. In other words, no one else came up with anything even close
Nothing
to
like
it.
Yeah.
Wow.
And so you can go online in the Electronic Language Simulator, and it'll show my name as the inventor. I'm not the recipient of all the money that was generated by that, but I have the great pride in inventing something. When I was a kid, about 10 or 11 years old, I was paid a penny a page to stamp patent pending, patent pending, patent pending, patent pending on a piece of flyer, a paper flyer, for a gentleman who had invented some kind of a car body tool. And he applied for a patent and paid me a penny a page. And I said to myself then, I wonder if I'll invent something someday. And damned if I didn't.
Oh my God. That is, Jim, I remember using that.
Yeah, you remember.
Yeah.
You used it.
It was amazing, because how else could you simulate working with an interpreter? And that's our life, right? And you have to get training in that. You can't just wing it. It's impossible.
Up until Jim's invention, we had to use alcohol. We all had to get really drunk so we couldn't understand each other. That was the only way around.
Oh, that's funny. Yes, learn away. Wow.
I've got some in the garage now. We'll probably go back to using them again. We quit using them because of the COVID and the microphones and all the contact stuff.
Right.
But I'm hoping that we can go back to using them again in our training down at Fort Bragg.
And bring them to the conference in September.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, that'll be fun, actually.
There are so many things you said I want to explore, but no, I won't.
Well, let's explore one more, because you just opened. I mean, I forgot about that, and it was a great to hear it again.
So you got paid a penny a page. How old were you when that happened?
10 or 11. Well, there had to be 10 because we moved to California, and this was the last house we lived in before.
This one's before California.
Yeah. And that was a very important time to me.
Right.
I look back, and a lot of things happened in and around there. So
before you went to California, as I know that's when you had a really good bonding experience with your brother, with discovering cars and discovering racing. You started working for yourself before you went to California, to make money for yourself. Was this the first job you had? Or
well, it wasn't really a job. I was just a kid, and the guy needed this done, and he just negotiated the price. And of course, a penny a page, I was stamping all day long.
Right. Who was the guy?
He lived below us. We lived above them in a kind of a duplex house, and he was a auto body crafter. And you've probably seen this device. It's kind of a handle with a slide weight, and you would screw the tip into the body that was dented.
Oh yeah.
The slide hammer would pull the dent out.
Huh.
And so I stamped that for him. And this was in Illinois. Yeah.
Did he approach you, or did you approach him for the job?
No, he approached me. I mean, we were close, in proximics. So I guess that's the only reason, nobody else is going to work for a penny a page except the kid.
Dang.
Or none of your siblings? You didn't want to go to any of your siblings?
Don't even remember anything more about it than that. I just was probably a target of opportunity.
See, you know me. I think you're more than a target of opportunity. I saw something in you.
That's one of the many jobs. I want to write a story someday called "Everything I Ever Learned from Every Job I Ever Had," because I learned a lot from a lot of people along the road to get to be where we are today.
There will
Absolutely.
be a lot of volumes to those books, Jim.
There would be.
That's a great one.
You might think I couldn't keep a job for so many jobs I've had.
No, so I'm a believer in it's not that people can't keep jobs. It's just that they've mastered what they're supposed to get on them and you move forward from them.
I like that. I'll take that and say, yeah, that was me. That was
You
me.
mastered what you're supposed to get from it and you move forward from it.
Yeah. Yeah. I like that. Jim, when I worked for SAIC, they had this thing called the T3 conference every year. It was like technology. Oh, I can't remember now. It's awful. And a lot of people apply and they only choose 13. So I was one of 13 out of 200 and something people who applied. And I got to present this new innovative technology. I created the concept. I am not like you. I wish I could create the thing, but I called it MADI, M-A-D-I. A mobile analyzer of deceptive indicators. And so I want to run it by you one day because I always wanted to do something with it. It was taking in a bunch of information. It was able to, kind of do what the polygraph does, but it also would have a recorder and analyze words set up against an algorithm saying, hey, this pops as a potential, kind of green, yellow, red of truthful deception. It also did the infrared, the heat scanning, and it also read facial expressions. And there was another group of people at SAIC who did the facial recognition software. They invented that. And so we were going to collaborate together, and then I don't know what happened. Anything. Life goes on, and I didn't get to do anything with it, but I always remember that, and I would love to do something with it.
Maybe now's the time.
I know. I'm going to collaborate with you. All right. Enough about invention. Let's go back in time when there was actually really good invention. It wasn't tangible, but it was this human to human interaction. It was this amazing skill that this one guy did. I don't know who taught him. Jim, maybe you do. Robin, Gab, maybe you do. But he had this gift. And it was an amazing skill. And we still use these skills today because they were so effective. And that guy's name is Hanns Scharff, German Luftwaffe interrogator. And you may be thinking, oh my God, why would you talk about the Germans? Well, there is a reason why. He was different. So I don't know if there's any one of you guys who wants to go into a quick little history bit or what you know about him to introduce our audience, because I can guarantee there's some of our listeners who have no idea even what I just said.
Well, I know some things.
Yeah, Jim, I knew you did. Jim, take it away. Educate us all.
And there's the book for anyone caring.
There, okay. And that's the heart of what we're talking about tonight. But so many people know what he did and know the significance of what he did. But if you don't know who he was, what he did is really kind of lost.
The background.
And so he was born in Poland. He wasn't a German citizen, and what is Poland today? And he was the son of a what do they call that? Textile manufacturer, and that would have been his follow-on to succeed with his brother to take over that business later in life. But he was sent down to Johannesburg, South Africa, to take a sales marketing program, and it turned out that it was just supposed to be for a year, but he ended up there for 10 years because he took over the program and took control and managed the program, and that's where he met his English-speaking wife. That's key. That connects the linguistics aspect to his interrogation skill set, and also I think textiles is a pattern kind of thing. And we're going to find out later in life that he loved art. And I think his art pattern, his art appreciation was early in life. And so with artistic people, what do we associate with art people? We don't associate them with type A personalities, strong, loud, boisterous, more empathetic people in the arts. That's a general statement. Don't hold me to it. But with the arts, with the English-speaking wife, he learns English. He's in marketing, so he's in sales. I've said this before, interrogation and sales are the very same thing. It's just a matter of information or money. And so he has this skill set. He comes back to Germany. He gets drafted because he's in the war time frame, and he gets sent to a nondescript, non-focused assignment. But his wife is influential to get him assigned to the West Front and get him assigned to he first becomes an interpreter. So we've talked about interpreters already. He was first an interpreter before he was an interrogator. And as an interpreter, he watched the interrogations, and they were severe. They were certainly vicious, as a classic war circumstance. And he vowed to himself that he would never do that kind of thing. And as he was later evolved into becoming an interrogator because of his skills as an interpreter and because of his familiarity with the language, he then came to place and use his empathetic personality and rewrote the book on not the book, but the whole skill set on interrogation.
That was awesome.
Right?
That was I didn't know half of that.
And also one wasn't his. I think I remembered in the book too. And Jim, you remembered much more about his background than I did. Didn't his father? I think he attributed his father with a lot of his belief system on how to treat another human being as well. So it wasn't just his witnessing, but I believe his father said you have to treat every human being with decency as part of it, is his codex as well.
Yeah. I kind of rushed into the key aspects, but he was an empathetic person.
Yeah,
he had good upbringing. He wasn't, I think we think of Nazi Germany and the Luftwaffe, we think of the Gestapos, we think them all to be a bad influence, a bad dark thing, but they're real people in their situation, and he was a real person.
Yeah,
came through it all and came to the United States. He marketed his knowledge and his experience through Argosy magazine first to the American people, so that's marketing as well. And then they became associated with the military and lectures at the Pentagon. And our interrogation schools to this day have taken on so much of what he did, how he did it so well. And his first articles in Argosy were called "Without Torture," and that's how he operated.
Yeah, if memory serves correctly, didn't he have a couple of very near misses with being sent to the front line where it would have been pretty much a certain death? I don't know. Once or twice he was told by officers when he went to report, to his new post, get up to the front line, and he had a couple of lucky escapes before he ended up back doing the interpretation. And at the same time, I think I might be confusing this story with somebody else, but I'm sure it was Hanns Scharff that wasn't actually going to be the interrogator of where he was sent to, but there was a series of accidents and issues with his superior officers, one by one, who died in things like plane crashes and all sorts of things, which by the end of it ended up with him in charge purely by default. Is that right? Right.
Yeah, as it happened, being an interpreter then, as an interrogator then, he came up by default and more than design. But I think it's just a wonderful human story.
Yeah.
Of a horrible human time to look back and still say the humanity is still key, still important, still worthy, no matter what happens in time.
No doubt.
Yeah, it's too bad we couldn't screen for empathy when we are trying to recruit for interrogators and all of that.
Or any position.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it's true. I just want to give a shout out to Heidi. Heidi, I'm so happy you're watching. And Shell said that we should come visit South Wales. I'm tripping over my words tonight. I don't know if my tooth is killing me still. Anyway, I was just in South Wales. I was in Swansea and Cardiff filming for a new TV show that's coming out in January. So I missed you. Sorry. Anyway. That
You
was
are
some
coming
good
soon,
stuff.
aren't you? Is that right? Are you still coming back soon to South Wales again? Or
I don't know. So the potential new show is probably going to be filmed here in the States, but I don't know. Yeah, I will let you know though. I would love to go back just as long as I don't catch COVID again.
COVID again, right?
Because that was
Been
not
medicated.
fun.
Yeah, I could
Oh.
suggest one thing to the viewers, that there's an old black and white post or during World War II movie made in Hollywood called Don't Talk.
Yes.
It illustrates very well everything that Hanns Scharff ever did and how he did it. The props he used, the interrogation never stops no matter where you're at, where and all. And so it was a Hollywood produced film called Don't Talk, and how he operated so well.
Was it actually about him?
No, but they absolutely
Based it on him?
Yeah.
All right.
You
Cool.
know.
Thanks. So
Well, sorry, Robin.
no, go ahead, Lena. I had nothing of value.
You have everything of value. That's a lie.
I'm good.
Do you want to talk about some of his techniques?
Sure. So to me, I love how everyone kind of focuses on, like you focus on the change of venue.
Yeah.
I didn't even pick up on that. Only when you reflect on it. Mine with his is because everyone has their go back and fall back to technique that is so amazing. And my favorite for Hanns, the presumptive statement. Hands down, that is
Yep.
he appealed to the human need to correct and got everything because he never asked a question. If you're ever looking for a story about what elicitation is, the whole story about how he got, the tracer, what the tracer around, what the whole white paint compared to red paint thing from the Allied pilots was such a great example of everything, because he had to change a venue, taking this one pilot for the walk every day and having a conversation. Again, he forged trust by building a good, healthy, strong relationship. And they're having a conversation. I think it was about wash machines. I think it was. And they're talking about the challenges of times in Germany and times back in the States because of, everyone's on a wartime footing. Then Hanns, started talking about wash machines and refrigerators and all the things that are hard to get. And then Hanns brings up with the pilot who had vowed never to tell Hanns absolutely anything. Hanns, you're a great guy. Yes, you got me my Red Cross packages. Yes, you're getting letters delivered for me. You're this great human being, but Hanns, I can't tell you anything. And Hanns like, of course you can't. Of course. We're just having a great conversation. And so Hanns was tasked, and this is what Germans were really good at. This was, the grain of sand. And so Hanns didn't have like a list of 50 million things. He had one thing. His task was, I think it was to figure out why tracer rounds were turning from white to red, or was it red to white?
White to red, I think.
White to red. And so so that was his task. And so he's got his one Allied pilot, and he's been with him for 2 weeks and kept vowing never to tell anything. And Hanns, during the course of his great conversation about life in Germany compared to life in the States, and he goes, yeah, well, at least in Germany, we're not running out of things. I'm probably misquoting this. We're not running out of things. Like you guys are having a hard time because you're running out of white paint. And the guy goes, what do you mean, Hanns? Oh, yeah, it's because, you're running out of white paint. That's why the tracer rounds are red. He goes, no, Hanns, you got it all wrong. It says it turned to red because that shows we're down to our last rounds before we run dry. He goes, the presumptive statement, you're running out of white paint. That's why. And he goes to the guy, because he had trust, the need to correct the presumptive statement, corrected him. Now Hanns knows to tell the Axis pilots or the Luftwaffe that, hey, when you start seeing the red tracers, that means they're almost out.
Yeah.
That was such a great story about the use. That's the first book I had ever read on elicitation, because this is when I met Jack Schaefer. Well, not met. This is when Jack Schaefer was with Phoenix with you all, and him and I were teaching the advanced undercover course together. And he had brought, I can't remember, it was the chicken or the egg with Jack and Joe Navarro all the time. Who said who to what? Because every time I have a conversation, he says something, I go, yeah, I've been saying that for years.
Yeah.
Was that you or me? And so I can't remember whether I had seen the interrogator when I was at the CI training center or Jack had shown it to me doing that course, but anyway, it came up there. That's when I dove in with that. And then John Nolan's book, Confidential. And that's where I first got exposed to really what elicitation was. And I thought that was just magnificent with the way you develop the relationship and then use that presumptive statement. And it is the most powerful elicitation tool out there to me.
It's my favorite. Oh, sorry, Gav.
One of his nicknames, one of Hanns Scharff's nickname was Stone Face, which I will obviously remember for obvious reasons.
We all remember something.
Yeah, and what it was, on top of the presumptive statement, on top of the fact that he did that assumed knowledge and that entire technique, one of the most important things was that the fact he never batted an eyelid.
Yes, that's right.
He just carried on walking and talking. Even though he got the information that he wanted, he never went, oh, and started writing it down and saying, I've got to tell the lads back at the... Yeah, he got what he needed, and he went on like he already knew.
Which does what to anyone you're talking to? It makes them feel safe. So that's what he did at all points, which is trust is based on making people feel safe and psychological comfort. So when you're non-alerting, when someone's sharing, that makes them feel safe with what they're sharing. So why not keep going?
That's right. And of course, when POWs were released and came home and they were asked, the most common phrase they said was, I don't know what he got out of me. I'm sure he got something out of me. I haven't got a clue what. Yeah, which is definitely a good interrogator.
Absolutely. Yeah. So for those of you who have taken some elicitation training with me or with Gav or anybody else, you may have heard presumptive statement called false statement. So I call it a false statement.
I call them intentional misstatements. Yep.
Yeah, it's the same thing. It's just saying something that you may or may not know is purposely incorrect, just to see if that person's going to change it up for you and correct you and then tell you. But then again, and then what Gavin said, having that stone face afterwards, we're going to coin that. It's like, it's just a mundane, normal conversation. And so people just keep talking and talking. Their guard drops when you don't ask questions because they don't think you're after anything. They just continue the conversation.
Exactly.
Jim, what was the biggest spark for you? Oh, I'm sorry, Gav, go ahead.
No, go on. No. Jim looked like he was going to have something, but
yes.
I'm joking. Excuse me.
I'll show you.
That'll teach me. I'll shut up next time.
Okay, I think I've got to go back and look. I think that he used props very well to make people feel comfortable, and I heard something in my head reminded me that he would even use dogs and cats to be, people who are away from home. If they have pets, they find somebody else's pet to pet or to talk to or to sit with. And I believe he even went to that extent to make people comfortable, to make people feel better, to make people more trusting,
safe.
Because animals bring out a good comfort, in a lot of people, most people. And so his use of props, his use of the environment, his use of, I've got some cigarettes here. Don't tell anybody I shared them with you. That creates those secret elements and comfort elements, and really, it's all about the rapport. It's all about the human element. Maslow's hierarchy comes to play here, and that's the human touch. The real human touch is what that book's about.
Definitely.
Jim, go ahead, Gav.
No, go wrong.
At what point had you read his book in your training? Progression.
I dabbled with it back in the 80s when I first joined the Army. And
you joined in 81, right?
84, January 84. And I was 33 at the time. I'm an older guy that showed up in the Army a lot later than a lot of folks, but I brought a lot of experience to the Army, and the Army gave me a lot of experience, and through that this is who I am. But I didn't read the book itself just thoroughly through. I just read portions of it. People would highlight it in the training and stuff, and I'd read those portions, and then finally, get to make the time to do it.
What were some of the parallels that you saw initially?
As far as technique?
Yeah, for the things that you were doing, and all of a sudden you read it in his book that you found the most effective for you.
I think his command and control of "We Know All."
Mm,
He would take the information that he had
Yep.
about us, about the Air Force, about the planes and stuff, and he would talk to pilots, and he would introduce a subject, and they might say something, and he'd say, "Well, yeah, we know that already." And then he would introduce another subject, and their comment would be, "Yeah, with this, yeah, we know that already." And he would just continue that conversation so that they never felt like they were telling them anything that he didn't already know.
Right.
And that was a great skill with the change of scenery, with the provocative statements, with the it is a prism light of what he did. It just fills the room with the different aspects and the different color tones that he brought to the play.
Yeah, spot on there, Jim. I think a lot of people concentrate on kind of a singular area of his techniques instead of looking at that each one of them is a brick that builds a house.
Mhm.
And it's not just his assumed knowledge, it's a mixture of everything. The props, the fact that he's taking somebody for a walk, it's side by side rather than face to face, which anybody, I mean, I know you guys do body language as well, so that in itself neutralizes a threat. There's so much going on, even down to the fact that he was wearing his own civilian clothes, appearing to be much higher in rank than everybody around him because he was allowed to wear his own civilian clothes. And again, that in itself gives the authority bias. There's so much, and I think it's a combination of all of these things put together that are going to, ultimately give him whatever technique he uses a lot more power and advantage, rather than it just being one thing. You could give somebody and say, look, assumed knowledge, that was what he did, go out and do that. And somebody else could try it who's never done it before and not have the same effect because they're not using all the other bricks to build the house, if that makes any sense.
Mm-hmm. He used other people as props.
Yeah.
And this is going to have to be careful with this. He used women to become friendly with the captives,
the nurses,
and then they were props. They were listeners. They were passive interrogators, if you will. And so by whatever means, I think is also his repertoire.
Yeah. For those of you, we've been mentioning presumptive statement and assumed knowledge. I just want to make sure that our audience is kind of tracking with the terminology that we're so used to using. So assumed knowledge is an elicitation technique where you pretend to be in the know about something. And so you use specific terminology, maybe jargon, maybe, one word or a phrase that if you're in that industry, you know it. And you may not know anything. So the fact that Jim is an inventor and he worked with patents, so maybe I'm going to say something that I know my best friend Charlotte, who works in the patent office in Alexandria, Virginia, and she blah, 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 whatever. And Jim says, oh, Lena must know about patents. So I guess it's okay to open up and tell her a little bit more about it. So, and that's exactly what Hanns Scharff did when he was talking to that pilot and saying, oh yeah, well, I know why, the tracers are turning color because of this. And even though that was that presumptive false statement, the pilot said, oh, well, Hanns, number one, knows what he's talking about. So it's okay for me to share information. Number two, he's actually wrong on this one thing, so I'm going to correct him. And number three, I don't feel threatened because he never asked for it. This is just a mundane conversation, right? Oh, and number four, the change of scene, we're walking in a field. I'm not sitting in an interrogation room. And I know at Gitmo, when I was in the trailers interrogating, I started meeting my detainees down in the prison. So we would go through 4 or 5 sally ports up the big hill to the interrogation trailers. And I did it one day just by happenstance because I was down the prison doing something. And I was like, oh, there's my detainee. I might as well go walk with him and the guards. And my interpreter was with me. So we're just walking away up to the interrogation booth. And I was like, what the hell? I'll just start. Oh, heck. I didn't mean to swear. I'll just start talking. And I started talking and I started getting a lot of information. I'm like, So that became my go-to, was to meet the detainees down and have a nice little walk in the
before
sunshine.
we work.
Bingo. Bingo.
I had a lot of conversations with people before we worked.
Exactly. And half the time, and sometimes I never brought them to work.
Right.
because I did, and they were like,
And so next time we have to get together, can we do a little bit more work, please, so I don't get in trouble and we can keep having these great conversations?
Exactly. So now you guys are seeing, how all of these things are kind of tying together. And we will, before we close out tonight, tell you how you can relate them in your everyday lives. You're not sitting across from terrorists or detainees or criminals, or you're not recruiting spies and, around the area, but you are leading a team of people. You are working in, places and companies and organizations. And we're going to tell you, hey, here's how these techniques can apply to you. Because again, you're probably sitting beside a human and you're working for a human and with humans. And this is human to human skills.
So, Lena, when you were walking from the cells to the trailers, did you ever ask for the furthest cell away from the furthest trailer to make them walk longer to get away from it?
It was hot. It was really hot. Oh my God. It was very hot.
Third time round.
That's kind of funny though. I got lost. Wait a minute. Where's my transition booth? Whoops. Sorry. Take a 20-minute walk.
Yeah. It's not this trailer, it's that trailer. No, it's not that trailer, it's this trailer. Never get to the
Where did it go? Someone moved it.
Take him back. Give me another one.
All right. So we've talked about, this change of scene. We talked about how the interrogation never stops, because you don't have to be in a certain room to do your job. It's just get the person comfortable, relaxed, and feeling safe so they open up and confide in you. Talked about the we know all approach and the assumed knowledge approach. And what else do we do? That's it so far. So there's another technique he used to use that I teach. And sometimes people, it's so elementary, but people just forget about it. And that is, he always wanted to make sure that whoever he was interrogating felt like they were a team. So it wasn't me against you, right? It was, hey, we're working together. And so how do you foster that connection that your detainee, suspect, your kid, your, employee feels that even in constructive feedback, you guys are a team and they shouldn't feel threatened. This is actually a good thing. So he did encourage that a lot. So it's not a you against me. It's an us thing.
Yeah, that bonding he was brilliant at when it comes to kind of, let me help you get through this. It was, I think, something along those lines. He used to say, while you're here, let me help you kind of get through this patch of you being a POW. So, and again, I think if memory serves correctly, there was one particular pilot who I believe might have been Russian, who he never got any information from, but actually remained friends long after the war, didn't he? If that's right. Yeah. And another thing that I found was really interesting. Not many people bring this up. I think he was born in about 1907 or thereabouts. And if that's the case, when World War II started in 1939, he would have been about 32 years old. So again, we're not looking at somebody who was in his 50s or 60s, or a mature, wise person who's got the lifelong lessons that they've learned. Jim, you've probably got more knowledge than God's dog. So,
God's dog.
I never heard that.
So of course, it's not like we're not talking to somebody who's that.
Yeah,
that's the tickle, Robin, isn't it?
Because now I got all more questions just pop into my head.
Yeah, but we are still talking about somebody who's relatively young at the time that this all started. So with that, I can see a load of questions just popped all at once into
I know. I totally have not been keeping track here. I'm trying to go through them.
But his middle age, he was much more experienced than the young soldiers,
reps.
Yeah.
The young draftees. So he was kind of a step ahead, maybe a little bit behind, but he certainly brought something to play with his business experience, with his empathy already. He had a person that he brought to this war, and not just a person as a result of the war.
So a question that I don't know the answer to, obviously I wouldn't be asking the question. Sorry about that. One of the big reasons for the success, for a short time frame that the German army had, was the Hitler Youth Program.
Yeah.
So every time they would call up another rank of people, they called up from the Hitler Youth, who spent roughly 3 to 4 years of really good systemized training. As a matter of fact, one of the reasons why the Germans were kicking everyone's butt so much, especially the Brits early on, is because of that dichotomy, the difference between their training and indoctrination from an early age compared to the other countries. I'm curious because Hanns saw around corners that people didn't even know were there. And I'm curious, because he was born and grew up in Poland, was Hanns part of the Hitler Youth movement and was conscripted out of that, or was he independent of that? And as just kind of a theory behind why he saw things differently than in an indoc program inside the German army itself. Any idea?
I like that question. I like your question. I'd like to know more about his youth.
Yeah, me too.
Not much is written there, but I think that's the key to really what he became. And I'm curious to try to find some resource of his youth as opposed to his professional post-war.
And I only say because I, as some of you all know, I finished reading Rise and Fall of the Third Reich a couple months ago, which is a really in-depth, couple 1,000-page volume of the whole German, Nazification from the birth of Hitler, basically, all the way up to the end of it. And so the author was a great author, investigative reporter, that was served over in Germany for the U.S. during that time frame, and he talked about the Hitler Youth Program and how the German army was able to sustain with such little limited resources compared to everyone else, but because of that professionalism at such a young age, and because Hanns really stood out from that kind of indoctrination, I was just curious. And also the fact that he was born in Poland and they allowed him to serve. That's really unusual too, because boy, did they hate the Polish.
Well, it wasn't Poland then. It's
right.
Born what is Poland now, but because he wasn't German, he couldn't become an officer. He was actually
a corporal when he came in, right? And so again, that's why this background. We got to dive. We got to find some resources to find out about Hanns' upbringing. It is fascinating, isn't it?
Yeah. It's more interesting to me now than it was back then.
Yeah, I know. Totally. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Gav.
I was just thinking when you were talking about that, when he was conscripted, he was on vacation, I believe, because he was living in South Africa with his wife.
He was trying to leave, right?
Who was British, yeah, and he was over in Germany at the time, but didn't live there. And that was when he was kind of told, you're here, you've got to be part of the war, I believe. Yeah. So I'm just trying to remember.
Germany was basically doing with everyone in Germany like the Ukrainians are right now.
Yeah.
I mean, it's I'm not, those are apples and oranges, I know, for the two persons, but what they were doing was they kept calling up and calling up and calling up just because they were rapidly running out of people.
Mm-hmm. I thought that was the case. I couldn't quite remember, but because I might be wrong. Wasn't his wife later on working with him as well at some point? Is that right?
Don't know that.
I don't know,
Jim.
I just know that his wife was key to get him to the Western Front instead of the Eastern Front.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, how did she have that connection? Because wasn't she American?
No, I don't believe she was American, but she was English speaker.
Right.
I can't say with authority that other than she was an English speaker, but she certainly found a way to get some attention about him to put him with his ability to speak English, put him against English speakers and not against Russian front. And whatever it is she did or how she did it, it was successful and a key to what would become.
And the other key thing that the world has really benefited from chance or the universe aligning this was the fact that he was an interrogator for downed Allied pilots.
Yeah. Had
that been any other group of POWs, that could have been a much different scenario about how that went. I think he was, from that whole thing. I mean, they did not treat POWs well anywhere. And the fact that they treated Allied, he had the flexibility and command to be able to have that flexibility to treat them the way he wanted to treat them to be effective. That was also remarkable.
Mhm.
And so in order to do that, he would have had to have really have recruited his chain of command as well.
Yeah,
That's what I was saying earlier. His chain of command were wiped out. You know, when I said earlier, but where he rose through the ranks, it started with his immediate superior was killed, I believe, in an aircraft accident. So he was then promoted to his slot, and then his superior above him was then killed in a freak accident. So he was then promoted to his slot. And this was how he ended up rising through the ranks, was through a series of events, you know, that were favourable for him purely by chance. So, and I believe his wife was British.
Again, it's so remarkable because of nepotism, especially as the war was going on, the nepotism that Hitler had towards his higher ranks and how they ran it. I mean, he ran everyone out that was not completely aligned with him, like the free thinking generals. I mean, there was so many coup attempts that failed because there's a lot of people against him, just didn't know how to be against him because they couldn't see around corners in time. And again, anyways, just he's such a remarkable human being, really, truly remarkable.
So I hear Disney, if anybody's ever been to Disney World, he's Gav. I think, no, who was, somebody took a picture with it. Maybe it was Bo. He has a mural inside the castle. Yeah.
Does he really?
Yeah, he did a mural inside the castle. And he has his name right there. So you can go take a picture of it.
Oh, wow.
It's a Cinderella mural.
Yeah, Cinderella's castle.
A lot of it
Wow.
been on display in California, I believe, and I think, if I've got this right, a couple of generations, I think it's his granddaughter that teamed up with him to form the company.
Yes.
Scharff, is it, or something like that? And yeah, they're still going. It's still a successful company now, so our digital design company now. But yeah, which is interesting. I think that's based in California as well, isn't it?
Yeah, because that's where he settled.
Yeah.
Afterwards.
There's other artwork in the LA County district courts or something. There's some other artworks around, not just wall murals, but floor murals and different things.
Oh my
gosh! So I'm,
Oh, neat. Well, I'll be heading over to Disney again. I don't know, in a month or so, but I'll have to just go make a trip into the castle and take a picture.
to have a picture.
I'll have to put it.
Yeah, do that.
Picture. Yeah, I totally will. Totally do that. Jim. Now, our dear friend Greg Hartley did a video on BBC. Remember?
Yeah.
Where can we find it? Does it still exist? What the heck was it?
It's called "We Can Make You Talk."
All right, because I tried so hard one day, and I can find anything online.
Okay.
And I couldn't find it.
We Can Make You Talk.
Okay.
And Greg offers this disclaimer in that they use, strong tactics, but not illegal tactics. Some people would be uncomfortable with what they would see.
Oh.
But certainly you and I understand, the dynamics and stuff. And it's an interesting program to watch. And if you've listened and you've been intrigued by these techniques, they demonstrate them all so well with the British interrogators who are class act. Those guys are a class act all by themselves. And We Can Make You Talk. That's the program, and I think it should be easily accessible
YouTube
somewhere on YouTube or something crazy.
Because I know it was BBC filmed it, but anyway, guys, if you want to look it up, and if somebody finds the link, share it, post it here in the Facebook group, because that would be awesome. But it was so good.
And there's a lot of historical stuff added to the video itself to give you some more background about interrogation.
Cool. It is an art. It's an art and a science. It's I'm so glad I fell into this field because I love it. I absolutely love it.
Yeah. Human intelligence is where I belonged. I think I drove myself there in a way, but I didn't know how it would make me, how it would connect with me. But it seems to be a good fit.
it was a part of your core from your experience when you were younger. You were born to do what you did and who you are.
Lena,
Still having fun.
Samantha Dobson
You as
has a
well.
question from earlier about the techniques. If you can get that up, I think it was aimed at you. So
Do you see it?
in the comments, it's back a little bit, but
Billy Montgomery. Hi, Billy. Billy's watching. It ran on History Channel, American Networks. Okay. All right. Cool. Ellie found it. I think she just posted a link. Yay. It's on Paramount. Okay. Everybody knows what. Oh, all right. I must just. And Billy has a copy on DVD. I just love it. So Billy Montgomery, dear friend of mine. Oh my gosh, my James Bond martini drinking partner. I met Billy, and you know Billy, Jim. The name may not ring a bell, but he used to role play for us at Phoenix. He is, he's an interrogator, Marine Corps, retired, former Marine Corps interrogator.
What's the last name? Can you...
Montgomery. He looked like, back in the day, looked like Val Kilmer. He had blonde, spiked hair.
Yeah.
Blue eyes.
Well, tell him I said hello. I've been blessed with a good forgetter, so if I don't remember
Good forgetter.
I apologize.
Oh, that's a good one. That's a good one.
I've been blessed with a good
That's the
forgetter.
truth. That's the truth.
Well, I got COVID fog, and I tell you, it's still lingering. It's a real thing. So how about, last couple of minutes, I told everybody we're going to say, hey, listen, how can you guys use this stuff and relate it? So I have a quick little example, and then I'm going to ask you guys to give examples as well. And this is for anybody who is a manager, supervisor, leader, and you are giving feedback, right? So you have a team. You may have a team of 2 or 20 or 200. It doesn't matter. But in that role, your role as a leader is to grow them to future leaders and to guide them and to really find out what they need and want. So that comes with feedback, right? And of course, I have a whole leadership background, which I won't get too in the weeds with tonight. But when you're a leader, you have to give positive and constructive feedback. And sometimes if you're continually doing that in your office and your feedback tends to be more the constructive side, and you tend to be a directive communicator like I am, sometimes people can dread going into your office because all of a sudden they walk through that threshold and tense up. Because they know that with your directive style communication, that's maybe a little insensitive. And it's every time you walk into that office, you're getting something constructive feedback that you have to fix. Even though that leader's intentions are great, sometimes just the fact of feeling that emotion and that tenseness can really set that session up for bad. So one thing you may want to do is change a scene. Instead of holding feedback in your office, go to a common ground area, maybe a conference room or something, maybe even going across the street to Starbucks for a coffee, wherever you can, but change up the scene and the environment so you both feel that no one has the advantage or disadvantage in that environment and it's brand new and it's comfortable, right? And also consider your environment. Is it comfortable physically, sound-wise, anything? So you always want to make that person that you're going to have this either difficult conversation or a feedback conversation or something challenging, you got to make them feel comfortable so they open up and want to communicate with you. So that's just one little thing, a suggestion. Of course, you're always going to have that empathy. You're always going to take the emotion out of it and really pay attention to the words coming out of your mouth. And maybe don't interrogate them. Maybe add in a little bit of elicitation techniques because they can really be a great rapport builder. So that's my tip. I'm going to pass it over to you guys if you have anything that Hanns Scharff, what we've learned about him and what he did, if anybody can use that in their everyday lives to help them with their human-to-human interactions.
I'll cascade on you, Lena, with I'll use the spy story side of life. So one of the greatest challenges of trying to recruit a spy is access. And not only just getting access, but where and when you get that access, because it's limited, it's rare. And the most important thing you want to do is, especially if this is going to be like a first contact of any sort, whether it's just going to be breaking that plane so they have an observation of you and they kind of can place 2 and 2 together. In other words, a guy walking around in a suit outside of a ski lodge most likely is not just a skier. So you go, so what you're always trying to do, though, talking about venue, is create an opportunity that is going to be in a different location than they're used to. But really for us, the different location was so that their training wouldn't kick in.
Oh.
Because if you have a lot of reps and people that you're interrogating have a lot of reps, they have a lot of reps in a venue that they're used to having reps in, whether it's an interrogation room, whether it's a police station. And for a spy, they're used to being hit up at a conference, at a reception, at a diplomatic establishment, all these different things. And so you want to try to engage someone in a venue, at a location, at a time, with looking at who's around them, so that when you have a first engagement, training won't kick in, which is brush it off, go report it to the security officer. You want them to be feeling safe enough to actually hear what you're going to say, and you have to shift it enough to know what their training is, so you can break them out of that training cycle in their brain.
Oh, I love that.
Can I cascade on you, Robin?
Please.
We live in a cul-de-sac here in Springfield, Virginia, and for almost a year, I would notice a gentleman who would walk around our cul-de-sac maybe 4 or 5 times in the afternoon, and I would wave to him and he wouldn't wave back. I would speak to him and he wouldn't talk back. I think I perceived that he was probably on the spectrum. Everything's in front of him. He doesn't see peripheral and such. So what I began to do, because I'm curious, I want to know this person. I want to know why he's out there walking every day. It's obvious it's probably for health reasons. So when I would see him coming down the street, I would walk out to the mailbox knowing that the mail wasn't there, but I'd cross right in front of him and check the mail and say something to him. And then I would just find myself on the street, on the sidewalk, and I'd walk by him, say something. And he finally got comfortable enough with me, I believe, seeing me, and me talking to him, that he finally said, I have to walk. It's good for my heart. And he just kept going, And then a little while later, he got more comfortable, and he actually stepped off the sidewalk into my driveway, and we talked about my car. And now I know Alvin by name. I know where he's from. I know the work he did at the Pentagon. I know what his physical condition is. And nobody else in the neighborhood, not a soul in the neighborhood knows his name and knows anything about him. But I had to find out.
Because no one else knew how to do a smile campaign, Jim. You conducted a perfect smile campaign and used that great Corvette as a third-party reference. And you exercised the one thing no other human being has: patience.
Okay. Yeah, it took a long time. It took a long time.
Smile campaign with patience. Beautiful.
Okay. And so that's how it worked for me.
Beautiful.
Yeah, love it.
Gav.
Oh, it's my turn. Okay. So I'm going to go back to the assumed knowledge thing and kind of give a demonstration of it. I used to do penetration testing many years ago. I've done it for the MOD. I've done it for private clients, etc., which is great fun because you get paid to break into people's houses. It's brilliant. So you're not allowed to take anything, but you tell them where the weak spots are. But at the time I was doing it for the MOD, and it was basically an operation where we had to get onto military bases. We couldn't show military ID and we couldn't pretend to be an officer. We just had to blag our way on or get onto the base one way or the other and basically report afterwards how we did it and whatever else. So a lot of the pedestrian gates are just a 4-letter code, 4-number code, and all I did is I waited for somebody who I knew was going in there because he was in uniform, so you can tell. And I just made sure I was a couple of paces in front of him, and I was pressing the gate buttons, and I said, "Have they changed the code?" And he said, "No, it's still 1, 2, 3, 4." And that wasn't the code, by the way. And I'm like, "Oh, me, I've got it wrong. I'm thinking of the other gate." And that's it. And I mean, I'm not in any uniform, not in anything, and that was just a perfect example of assumed knowledge. He assumes I'm meant to be there, even though I haven't got the code to the gate, even though I've got no ID. And he goes ahead and tells me the code and lets me in. So there you go. That's the kind of way that like assumed knowledge can be used.
And what did you look like too? Because remember, it's always, I love the more, it wasn't just that you made him feel safe to share it with you in some other way too. So what other things did you have that cascaded on top of that? What did you look like? What was your demeanor? I mean, were you soft-spoken? Did you think about, in other words, what more did you think of, not just that line?
So I don't know. It was a bit of a spur of the moment thing. I knew roughly what I was going to do, but I was in civvies, so I'm just in standard clothes, not in any kind of uniform or anything. I'd gone up to the gate and I'd henpecked at it a couple of times and pretending to put a code in. And I think I was just looking a little bit frustrated, but most importantly, I looked like I belonged.
Mhm.
And I think that was the main key factor for that at that particular point. So, and this is where Hollywood gets things wrong, where you see the action scenes and they're walking around the outside of a building like this, and it's like, and in reality, it's nothing like that at all. You've got to look like you belong, because that's probably a good 90% of the. If somebody suspects that you're not meant to be there, they'll say, go to the front gate, see them, they'll let you in, or whatever the case may be. They'll know that.
Have the four of you seen the new Maverick, the new Top Gun Maverick?
Yes.
Jim, did you see it?
Hello.
Okay. So in the one of the last scenes in there, he uses just what Gavin's talking about when him and Rooster get shot down, and the only way out was to get in the F-14 Tomcat of the bad guys. They just had their flight suits on. They're walking along, and they say, "Look like everyone else. Everyone else is running. Let's run."
Yes, I love
They
it.
did the same thing.
I love it. I was going to ask you, Gav, pull interrogator on you and say, how do you look like you belong?
Right. That's what I was curious too.
Yeah.
I think it's more of a state of mind, and the looking like you belong comes afterwards. And I think, I know that might sound crazy, but it's like the kind of the mental mindset affects the physiology. So, and this is why people get caught, these burglars get caught, because, the police they know they're not meant to be there. So when the police come along trying to torch through the fence and say, what are you doing the other side of that fence? It doesn't matter what they say. The police know that, that they're not meant to be there, because they know they're not meant to be there. So if you can get it in your head where you don't have to hide yourself, you're meant to be there. It changes your whole demeanor. And I think if you change your mental state of mind, that will change your physiology enough to do the work for you, without you having to consciously trying to say, look like I belong. Just,
in other words, in that moment, you could have passed a polygraph on anything, because you believed exactly the role you were playing, which is a very, very high level thing to do that not many people can do. There was not one intelligence officer that we observed in New York that I didn't know, because of our lookouts. It wasn't me, but our lookouts didn't know when they were going operational. Their nonverbal spiked out that door every single time.
Wow.
You've just sparked it off where it come from. It's because I used to walk around high school. When I was skiving lessons, I used to walk around high school with a piece of paper. And it was blank. There was nothing on it. But whereas all the other kids had run off and hide behind the bike sheds or in the cloud, I would just walk for an hour during the lesson I didn't want to be in, with that piece of paper, looking like I was on my way to somewhere. And I think that, even at the age of like 13,
That's awesome.
I think that's where it was.
You had reps in there somewhere.
That is awesome.
So they never said, like, where are you going? What are you doing? Because I just looked like I was taking a note from one classroom to another, or to the headmaster's office, or to whatever. And I could just walk around school for hours and nobody said a word to me. So that's just come back to me. Oh wow, how about that? That's probably where it originated.
all the surveillance training in all the agencies and all the DOD all happens in Old Town Alexandria.
Yeah.
And you can go to sit down at a park bench in Old Town Alexandria and see who's working, see who's not.
Watch a show.
Jim, I used to get bumped there all the time in Virginia Beach. Not in Old Town, in Virginia Beach, I used to get bumped because the high school is there.
Watch.
I'd be in the grocery store and there's two kids coming in, clean shaven cut, wearing the short sleeve polo and shorts. They come into Fresh Market, and I because they came right on my radar. I'm like, that doesn't look right. And anything that doesn't look right, I'm locked on.
Yeah.
Like, Oh, I know what they're doing. They're bumping, right? So I'm looking at onions or whatever. And so I see them conquer and divide. They have no cart, they have no back, nothing. And I'm like, and one comes and bumps me. And I was like, listen, before you go any further, you do not look the part. You need to go back and grab a basket and buy something.
Yeah.
And he just went. I was like, so go back and tell your instructor that you need more training.
And where
And he just whoop out. He signaled to his friend and they ran out. So later I got a call like, Lena, you harassing our students. I'm like, hey, you got to train them better.
yeah,
Good stuff.
it's a fun business. It's a fun
It is a fun business. It is. Oh my gosh. All right. So it's 7:40. I know we've run
gotta
over.
go. I gotta
Everybody,
go.
yes, confidence is key, right? Confidence is key. I have loved this conversation tonight. I know we all have because we're all like chomping at the bit to talk. Any last thoughts or sayings or anything that you guys want to share with our viewers?
I'm done.
With everything, be present.
Yeah.
This-
Like that.
the greatest success you can have in everything is let go of every single agenda you have and be present. Take it all in and give that gift that everyone's looking for, and that's the gift of being seen.
Talking of being seen, you've turned your telly off tonight. Is that because Jim's with us?
Oh, I didn't have a chance. My apologies. Because I was running around. My son just walked in the door, and I apologize. I meant to put it on, and I'm sorry.
Yeah, so we've been watching the reflection to see what you're up to under the desk all night. It's been fun.
Playing with
Jimmy,
my knife.
the background there on the
do
bottom
this.
shelf in the background. Is that
Oh
Jim's?
my
in-
God. I can see it.
The what? This one?
No, I know what he's doing. No, so because there's no picture on your screen, it reflects behind you, the light,
Right.
very slightly. So Gav's been watching. What you've been doing.
No, I always have to fiddle with something, so I fiddle with a knife.
Oh, a
I'm glad
knife.
that's what it
Okay.
is.
Well, I fiddle with a pen, but you know.
Well, the pen's here that I fiddle with.
Okay.
Oh, and I was on a podcast today that they made me change my mic out, and I had to not touch anything. It was horrible. It was so rough.
Yeah.
I said, when I'm thinking, I sit here and not think when I'm listening, it just gives my hands something to do while I'm listening because it helps me focus.
Yeah.
And so it's funny.
I take notes.
I need a rubber mat because I tap. I don't
Right.
want I need just a little rubber mat to absorb the tapping and the pencil stuff and.
Right.
All right. So Gav, what do? We got a
My
tapper.
brain-
We got
my
a knife player.
Oh, I got my pen right here. Look.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Okay. You and I play with pens.
Shane, what you can see in that screen because I don't really have anything else.
He's like, I'll never do that. So I have my little monitor back there. I still have yet to turn it on since I moved in because
I need something more. I've just got old timey wood panel.
You know what though? It's retro, Jim. Don't get rid of
Retro,
it.
okay.
Retro.
Yeah.
Actually, I'll give you all a treat real quick as y'all are doing that.
Oh yeah, check it out. Yeah, I gotta get all high tech like that.
Yeah, me too. Me too.
Yeah, I'm just looking in the bottom shelf of Jim's room there with the box at the bottom. Is that your invention there? Is that earphones? Is it? I can't quite make it out.
Oh,
No, that's my Alexa. But
Oh, fair enough.
that's what's showing.
Is that a new picture or a new book?
oh, you better not say her name because she'll turn on. Start talking.
Well, okay, no. My invention's about this big.
Yeah.
Big, you know.
You used to travel with it, and it was
Yeah.
it was
6 of them.
yes. God, I remember now.
Yeah. They don't eat. They don't need a plane ticket. They save a lot of business money.
Yeah,
That was. If you could save business money, you could be a hero.
Jim, I
Yep.
think I remember.
That's who I
fighting
talked
with
to this
Flip.
week.
Oh, wow, the conversation codex. Brilliant.
That was our episode this week we
Brilliant.
recorded.
I like
Awesome.
that picture. If
Yeah.
I could,
You want that graphic, by the way, Jim?
oh,
I
I love
mentioned the other day. I'll send it to you.
yeah. Oh, you're too good to me.
Jim, can you take a photo of your invention next time you have the chance and post it in the group for people to see?
Yes.
Next time I'll set it up and you
Okay.
well,
Cool.
yeah, it's
Yeah, that'd be great. That'd be wonderful.
We used to fight with the instructors who was going to have to travel with it to San Diego. I'm like, I don't want to. It's heavy. Cliff would be like, well, I don't want it. I'm like, no, Cliff, it's you. You got to take it.
If I had some more investment money, I could make it into a briefcase.
Oh my God.
But that's cost money, and nobody needs to be there more. And there's so much interpretive hardware and software out there.
Yes.
that I'm probably just an old dinosaur these days.
Well, still post a picture because I think everybody would love to see it.
Okay.
Absolutely.
That would be super cool.
All right,
We'll
team.
send
Thanks
you
for
some
another
notes on the-
awesome evening.
Thank
I
you,
know.
guys.
Thank you
heard
so
it.
much, everyone.
And I always smile more with you guys than I do any time during the day.
Oh,
Awesome.
Yeah, I'm in the middle of a tropical storm, and at one point, I'm
Again.
like, oh, I get to go. I know again. I get to go on tonight with them. I'm going to be happy. Yay!
Me
So
too.
I love it. All right,
for
thank
everybody
you.
who's-
Cheers,
like
everyone. Yeah. what?
Lena, your book, the 15th. It's how many days away are we? We'd see 11th today, 4 days.
5 days. Wow,
days.
5 days, guys. And ready? And this comes out. Da, 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 da. Yeah, it's just a
Yep,
piece of
yep.
paper because I don't have them yet. I'm still waiting. for
Amazon will put it on my porch the next morning. So
Yay,
it's cool.
yay. Cool.
Fantastic.
And if you don't know what's in this honest answers, elicitation, interviewing. I do mention Jim. I do mention Hanns and negotiation. So yeah.
Right.
Mhm.
All
Thank
right.
you to
That
everyone.
being said, thank you, gentlemen. Again, amazing night, Jim. Thank you so much for coming back on. I'm sure. This is not
I-
the last.
You guys want me? I'll hang out with you for sure. It's
Oh.
a
But
lot
I
of-
like having the 4 blocks too.
Oh yeah, very
Yeah.
helpful.
Well, who knows? You might be coming on every fortnight with us.
That's
Well,
a regular thing.
I will. Anyway, thanks.
As described here.
Like I'll think about it. All right. Everyone be safe. Good night. I am closing down our